Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here for our Changemakers event. I'm Marnie Smith. I'm the Assistant Director of Graduate Career Services at the Mark School. I'm here with Suzanne Grossman, who is the Director of Career Services at the Mark School, and also my lovely co-organizer, Ralisha, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Good afternoon. I'm Ralisha Pena, pronounced she, her, hers. Privileged to be a guest on Lenape land. I am the Assistant Director of Career Services at Columbia School of Social Work, and I'm also joined with with our Director, Tamimi Utani at Columbia. And we are very happy and privileged to welcome you to our event. So Marty and I, we created this event for those aspiring for careers that helps you to contribute to dismantling unfair systems, help others respond to injustices, strengthen communities, and just empower society at large. To give you a sense of what to expect today, we will start with an introduction of the panelists and have a few questions to get the conversation started. We'll hold some time for Q&A from the group, and thereafter we'll give you the opportunity to go into breakout rooms and for networking and to ask any follow-up questions you have for the individual panelists. And speaking of, I'd like you to welcome Teresa Tanjan from the New York Immigration Coalition, Samantha Phillips from Color of Change, and Hannah Green from Vera Institute of Justice. So to waste no time, maybe we'll start with Teresa. Introduce ourselves, tell us about your organization, what you do there, and how did you get there?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is, as mentioned, Teresa Thanjan, and I am actually a proud alumni of the Columbia University School of Social Work. So this is really, really a great, I'm very excited to be here. So I work at the New York Immigration Coalition, and I am the senior manager of member engagement for New York City. And to tell you a little bit more about me, I am the daughter of Indian immigrants, first generation here in the United States. And I think my parents' experience of coming to a new country and their whole, everything they went through in terms of their struggles and their successes really helped to form and shape my identity and my passion and to advocate and work with immigrant communities. So the New York Immigration Coalition is a organization that works with 200 member organizations across the state, the large majority of them being in New York City, over 100 of them. And my job is really to connect them to local, city, and so city, state, and federal campaigns that will, that promote equality and justice for all. So yeah, I think that's my intro.
Thanks, Teresa. We could go on to Samantha.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all for having me here. My name is Samantha Phillips. Pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the Director of Talent and Recruitment at Color of Change. Color of Change is the nation's largest online racial justice organization. What we do is collect all of our efforts to ensure that people have strategic ways to combat the injustice that they see out in the world. So we have, we're actually multi-entity. We also have a super PAC during election seasons as well. So we do some like on the ground field organizing as well, but we're digitally native. So we often send out, you may have gotten our emails. You can see us on Instagram, Twitter, all those things to see all of the great work that our team is doing. So how did I get to Color of Change? I actually have been working at Color of Change. In June, it'll be 6 years. So when I started at COC, it was probably about 15 to 20 staff members at the most. Now we're over 125 staff, with lots of new departments and lots of new teams and roles. So I did a number of things at Color of Change. When we were quite tiny, we didn't have such a big infrastructure. It was probably around 3 of us doing ops, HR, finance, and doing all of that behind the scenes work is like what I like to call it. And as Color of Change started to grow and as we started to recruit, I really got to hone in and focus on what I was passionate about, which is to bring brilliant people in to do this great targeted work. And I also lead our professional development efforts as well for our staff members. So those are some of the things that I do here at Color of Change. Yeah.
Thanks, Samantha. Hannah, I think you're up.
Great, thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Green. I use she, her, hers pronouns. And I, like Teresa, am also a proud alum of Columbia School of Social Work. So really happy to be here and to be in this space with all of you. So I am a senior program associate at the Vera Institute of Justice. And Vera is, we're a national research, policy, and advocacy organization. Our work is really focused on transforming America's criminal legal and immigration systems and ending the current racialized system of mass incarceration in America. So we have work across a variety of areas. So within the immigration space, I have colleagues who work, for example, on ensuring universal representation for immigrants in detention. I know we've partnered with NYIC on that in New York. For example, within the adult criminal legal system, I have colleagues who work on ending cash bail, reducing the footprint of jails in rural communities, access to post-secondary education in prison for folks who are incarcerated. So the work is varied. I think it looks really different for different teams, but generally we're really focused on building partnerships and relationships with government and community stakeholders and piloting local solutions to then try to build those to scale nationally. So the work that I work on within Vera is the initiative to end girls' incarceration. So our goal is working towards ending the incarceration of youth on the girl side of the juvenile justice system across the country. The focus is not only on closing the doors to justice facilities, but actually ending any sort of mandated out-of-home placement as a result of justice involvement. So we're working in 5 jurisdictions across the country right now, working in New York City is one of them. And we're bringing together government stakeholders, community leaders, directly impacted young people all to the table to kind of dig into local data, figure out what are some of the local drivers of incarceration, and then develop community-based, community-led solutions to disrupt those pathways. So that's the kind of 1,000-foot view. I'm happy to answer more questions when we get to the breakout. In terms of how I got to Vera, as I mentioned, I was a CSSW alum. Before I went back to school for social work, I was kind of working in policy and philanthropy, all really focused around gender justice, gender-based violence. Ended up back at school because I wanted to get some direct service experience and some training that was really grounded in a social justice and racial equity lens, and ended up doing my second-year field placement at Vera and was lucky enough to stay on and transition full-time. So that's where I've been since then. So yeah, that's me.
All right, thank you. So clearly 3 amazing organizations doing amazing work with a large reach and delivery of many methods, from digital nomads to on-the-ground grassroots initiatives. So thank you for this wonderful introduction. So I just want to lead into, you know, a lot of our guests today are student guests have just completed their degree or a few years out. So I'm sure they would like to know what are some of the hard skills and soft skills that you use almost every day in your line of work, and maybe that will help them think about where they can develop and the gaps that they need to fill. And anyone could jump in to start.
I'm happy to get started, and I'm not sure how many folks are interested in like infrastructure behind the scenes work. So I'm gonna try to like name some things that folks on the ground as in programs and communication all over can use when applying and working at Color of Change specifically, and I'm sure other organizations as well. I always like to say, you know, definitely it's super important to have relationship building and management skills in the social justice realm. Most folks who are in social justice are community organizers, even if their title doesn't say that. So that's the lens that they come into the work with. So it's very relational when you're working in these different spaces. So it's really good to like build relationships, which I know it's super hard to do now during COVID times, but you know, as organizers, you can definitely find some ways. Problem solving, I think, is often a really good skill to have. A lot of our organizations and Color of Change, you know, we are rapid response. We do have some long-term campaigns that we work on, but there's also, unfortunately, lots and lots of rapid response moments that we have to jump on. So for that, we have to have like great flexibility and problem solving skills, as well as decision making and team building. And I would say for me personally with my work, I always say emotional intelligence, just to understand like folks on the ground are really in it every single day. Even as a person with lived experience, you still are not like in it as much as they are. So to have some emotional intelligence, be a supportive leader as well. And, you know, creativity, even for us here on the back end, we definitely need to be creative with our solutions. So those are some of the things that I would say is super important, both hard and soft skills, depending on how you rate them.
And just to piggyback on that, I would say that a lot of that is also true for me. I think one of the things I started out at Columbia when I thought I was going to go into direct practice. And my road kind of went into community organizing, which is where I wound up and I still am today. So I think, you know, community organizing is something that plays a significant role in what I do day to day. There are real benefits to learning the different ways to do that, especially if you're thinking about social justice work and being centered in the community and
I think we have a, yeah. Hannah, you could jump in if you'd like.
Sure, yeah, and then I'll pass it back over to Teresa when she jumps back in. I think I would echo what Teresa and Samantha both said in terms of the importance of relationship building kind of as one of the primary skills that I use on a day-to-day basis, and that I think folks across Vera use. Oh, Teresa, you're back. Do you want to continue, or I'll keep going and then I'll kick it back to you. So, you know, I think in terms of my role and kind of on a day-to-day basis, some of the things that I do, relationship building, but also communication, like verbal and written, and being able to kind of move between the two are really key. A lot of the work that I do in my role is facilitating conversations with a variety of different types of stakeholders, whether that's government and system leaders who may be kind of in varying degrees on their path towards understanding the harms that the systems that they lead cause, whether that's grassroots organizers who, like Samantha said, are there every day on the ground leading this work, who sometimes are really legitimately skeptical of a national organization coming in, and working with them, and then directly impacted young people who are experts in navigating systems, but they may not have the jargon down, or they may be in varying degrees in their own political education and critical consciousness. And so being able to facilitate those conversations, translate, use kind of the language as appropriate to move forward concepts is really key. And I definitely rely on some of the group facilitation skills that I learned at Columbia at the School of Social Work, in terms of guiding us towards a goal, reframing, redirecting different things in different conversations. And then I think in terms of the kind of communication, the writing and the verbal, a lot of what I do is take conversations, facilitated conversations, and then translate that into concrete policy solutions that are digestible, that folks can really organize around. And so that's whether that's writing policy memos or blog posts, or doing presentations in front of a variety of different stakeholders. Slide decks, I do a lot of slide decks. I think that's a skill that I've had to kind of develop on the job. And then I think the last thing is really project management. Like, I think it's a really unsexy part of the work, but having the organizational skills to make sure that we're delivering, the key deliverables that we need to be doing, that we're, communicating progress of the work, the problem solving that Samantha mentioned also, to kind of pivot and shift to make sure that we're meeting those goals are all really key. And then the last thing that I'd say, I don't use this in my day-to-day, but I think across Vera, we have a really strong and large research team. And so those skills look a little bit different. Those are much more of kind of your hard research analysis skills, and more emphasis also on collaborative research skills. And so that's, I think what folks are looking for on the research side of things that, I don't do in my day-to-day. And Teresa, I'll kick it back to you.
I'm so sorry, folks. Can you hear me now? Yeah, I think I don't actually know where I cut off, but I want to say, just adding to Hannah and Samantha, one of the hard skills we've been using at the coalition are just in terms of learning different, like, evaluation and management software. We've been utilizing Salesforce a lot to kind of help us to organize as a coalition, and trying to be committed to personal and professional growth by doing evaluations and systems for that. So there's always other things we have to learn, new programs we have to learn, but it's really just to kind of keep us all on the same page and continue to work in a collaborative way.
Wow, that was wonderful. And I think some of the major themes that came out of that was collaboration, relationship building, which it also ties in back to like emotional intelligence and being able to think about your own space and positionality, as well as how you support others in that work. And that's just straight on leadership skills in any industry. Okay, and so we're going to move on. And I think Samantha alluded to that in this like response of things that are happening almost every daily. How do you stay on top of trends related to your area or connected to the pulse of what's happening in the community right now? And I'll leave that open as open-ended in how you want to answer that. So anyone could take the lead.
Oh, Samantha, you're on mute.
Oh, yeah, I thought she said Samantha, but I didn't want to be the first one to jump in again. So I want to leave space for the other panelists to start off if they wanted to.
Samantha, I'm fine with you going. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a few ways that I can answer this question. For me, being an HR professional, I obviously, I'm a member of SHRM, and I look at HR, other HR related sites and blogs, Talent, Lyft, I do learning and development. So I look at some of that too, Smart Recruiter, the Management Center. But I also try to focus on like the work that we do and what's best practice for us as well. Because sometimes when you are looking at these more structured organizations, they may not lend well to your particular organization. So you have to do a combination of like best practice like out there and then best practice in your own space. But if I'm going to speak more broadly for other folks who may want to do more programmatic work, I will definitely say it's about being on top of like what's going on about whatever your area is. At Color of Change, we believe that people experience life, not issues. So although we do have specific issue area experts, we definitely look at things holistically. So just about being, we're a national organization, so being in touch with the folks that are on the ground, other small grassroots organizations, making sure that we are not just coming from a national level saying what needs to be done, but we are listening to our members. We have over 5 million members of COC, so making sure we're listening to our members, seeing what's going on, and just having like a great theory of change. And I think those are some of the things that help keep us on track.
I would say that we are a member-based organization. So a lot of what we do is we create ways for our members to give us input, be it through member roundtables, meetings. We are constantly asking for their feedback on the different advocacy campaigns we're going to pursue. It's actually a thing we do every year in terms of trying to get their feedback on our top campaigns. For example, this year, our top campaign was about making sure immigrants in New York have access to legal representation. And it was something that Hannah mentioned because Vera is one of our main collaborators on that. And we're also involved locally in terms of providing those with green card holders and those with work authorization the ability to vote in municipal elections. This was something that was indicated by our members as a really powerful thing they'd like us to pursue. So with immigration, there's just so many things that happen constantly. There's so many wonderful national organizations that I turn to, including the National Immigration Forum. And, we have also Color of Change. I want to mention Color of Change and Vera. So we have so many wonderful opportunities to learn from our partners, but also our members. And when it comes to immigration, I also turn to news outlets like Documented is a really fantastic news outlet that's really on the pulse of communities in New York City, and trying to just kind of, every day kind of keep track on what's going to come up as the next issue, and, what's happening in the federal government when it's in regards to immigration. There's just always a lot to keep up with. So Twitter is a big source of information, following key leaders, people whose work I admire is really important. And yeah, I would say Instagram and Twitter as well.
Yeah, I think Smith and Teresa covered a lot of what I was going to say. I think this is such an important question. There's so much information and content out there that's just coming at you from all directions. And I think it can be really hard to stay on top of different areas. And, at least for me, because the work that I do is really at the intersection of so many different areas. And Samantha, I love that people have experienced life. They don't work on issues because right, we take a really holistic approach to our work. And so that means kind of staying up to date on different issues that are happening across, whether that's juvenile justice, gender justice, child welfare, runaway and homeless youth, adolescent rights, reproductive health, kind of all of those areas. So, I definitely try to stay in terms of like national news on different national coalitions, advocacy organizations, to make sure that I'm getting newsletters and up to date on that. And then like Teresa said, social media, like I follow people that I really admire, thought leaders on Twitter. And that includes folks at the national level, but also really importantly at the local level where we're doing work. I follow the grassroots organizations, the leaders, the people that we partner with so that I can make sure that I'm staying up to date on what's happening on the ground as well. I think, at a national level, in terms of folks that I follow, National Black Women's Justice Institute, Grantmakers for Girls of Color, Young Women's Freedom Center, Rights for Girls, those are all Common Justice, Girls for Gender Equity in New York, are all organizations that I kind of look to and turn to make sure that I'm up to speed. And the last thing that I'd say is, our team has tried to implement something this year where we try to dedicate every month some time for us to come together and discuss something really substantive that came out from one of our partners. So like folks are releasing reports all the time, and we rarely have the time or space to really sit down and dig into them. So to make sure that everyone on our team read that report, that we're talking about it substantively, and it's been a really nice kind of space to have to make sure that we're, having these important conversations that can get lost. Yeah.
Thank you all. So it's 1:27 now. So I'm going to use this time to ask the panelists if they have any opportunities or if they know of any opportunities at their organization that they just want to talk about. And if not, or as well, let us know, what makes a successful candidate at your organization.
So I can go first. Vera is a large organization. We are growing and seems almost constantly hiring. So I would definitely encourage you all to go to our website, vera.org/careers, to see what's currently posted. I know there's a few program associate and senior program associate roles available right now on our Reshaping Prosecution team. I think there's something within our Center on Immigration and Justice, and there's also some openings within our Greater Justice New York program, which is actually focused on some policy change in New York State. So definitely check that out. I think, in terms of what makes folks successful, it varies a little bit team by team. We're a really project-based organization, so I'd encourage you to read the job descriptions closely. I know People Resources at our organization spends a lot of time trying to be really clear in the job description about what things will look like. But folks from many different backgrounds are successful at Vera. We have a growing number of MSWs, a lot of MPAs. So definitely those backgrounds are valued. I think the commonality is really commitment to racial justice, to racial equity, inclusion, and really being able to articulate that passion and what that commitment looks like for you on a daily basis, and how you approach that work is really key.
And I'm just going to jump in. We also have a number of positions open on the manager level at the NYIC in terms of, I didn't say this before, but the coalition the staff is broken up into different policy areas. So we have health policy, we have education policy, democracy policy, the areas that significantly impact immigrants in New York State. And so right now we have positions open in our health policy department, and just definitely encourage you all to look at that. We also have MSWs on staff, MPH, and we do really seek to have a very diverse staff that reflect New York City in terms of lived experiences, languages, and cultural experiences. So I think in order to succeed at the coalition, it really is about being flexible. There is so much going on when it comes to immigrant justice, immigrants' rights, and advocacy that it's really about just being able to be flexible and open, as well as being able to, take time and take care of yourself, which is a really hard thing to do sometimes, especially in a very stressful time that we're living through with COVID. But you are the best resource, right? If you can't be if you can't take care of you, it's really going to be hard for you to be able to throw yourself into the work and into social justice work. So that's something that I would recommend as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. So Color Change is hiring a lot. We have been growing since I got here, I feel like. Currently, we have positions at all levels of the organization, from C-suite to some senior program managers, to some comms folks, as well as coordinators and EAs. So we're looking for a variety of folks. What I would say, similar to what Teresa and Hannah said, is about being mission driven. Like, that's something that we look for. Color Change has a very specific, very bold mission. We don't try to sugarcoat what we're trying to do here at Color Change. So we're just looking for folks who are ready to give people strategies to make real world change, no matter what your position is. Like, that's definitely the focus. Color of Change is definitely about trying to affect change. So I would say, as I mentioned before, relationship building is super important, is definitely a way that folks will be able to be successful here. Flexibility, I think, in any social justice organization, especially right now with everything going on, is very important. Intellectual curiosity, creativity, all those things are really important, and some of COC values that I think will make successful candidates.
Wow, thank you so much. So we do have one question, which I think is just more of a follow-up from this last question. What is your advice to stand out when you apply for jobs at any of your organizations? So anyone can take this. And then if there's no more questions, we'll then jump into breakout rooms.
I'm happy to jump in, since I probably look at most of the resumes all the time, or me and my team. I think it's definitely, as Hannah mentioned, about looking really closely at the job description and looking closely at the mission. And folks don't think, but we do read cover letters over here, at least at Color of Change. So definitely trying to weave in how you see yourself doing this work, like what brings you to this work, is super important for folks to want to know. And also transferable skills as well. I know sometimes years of experience and things like that can make people get a little nervous or don't want to apply, especially folks who may be newer to actually taking this on as a career. But I would say transferable skills is something that you can speak to. Definitely look at the roles, responsibilities, and see what you have done that's similar. It may not be the same exact thing, but project management is a big skill that every organization needs. So just talking about different things like that, I think can definitely help you stand out a bit.
Thanks. Actually, we do have another question. It was more about, can you speak about your company culture? Any thoughts or comments on that?
I think we have a very open culture at the NYIC. There's a real commitment for people to be open and honest about their own biases and their own views, just kind of recognizing that, no one is perfect. And if we want to create an inclusive environment, really kind of, our leadership team is very, we have an active diversity and inclusion process. We've had folks come in, especially during the pandemic and all of, with all of the increasingly high stress levels associated with it, just kind of having an opportunity for staff to go through that process and share their feelings about what's happening, very social worky. So yeah, I think it's an open environment and very open to diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, I would say at Vera, similarly, we've been going through as an organization a race equity and inclusion process, and really making that front and center in terms of all of the work that we do across our different projects and program areas. And so, Vera kind of operates with all of these different projects that, sometimes can operate, they exist kind of in and of themselves. And so part of what the work that Vera has been doing through through a new strategic planning process that we went to is thinking about ways to kind of break down some of those silos, make sure that there is opportunities for engagement across different projects and across different areas of work. I think, with the pandemic, leadership has been really supportive in terms of thinking about, all of these different kind of packages for wellness, which has been really, really wonderful to see that kind of support coming down from leadership, and also through a race equity lens, and thinking about the ways that this pandemic and everything that's happened this summer in terms of police murder and protests has really impacted staff of color in particular. So thinking about flexibility in terms of how folks are showing up to work, but also giving folks extra days of wellness and some wellness packages, because it has been a stressful year, to say the least. And so I think, Vera has been really committed to that and is continuing to think about how to grow and push that forward.
Okay.
Oh. I was about to say it's 1:37, so we don't want to waste any more time. Or although this is not a waste, but we want to give more time for the breakout rooms. So Marnie will start that process, and hopefully we'll have enough time for at least 2 rounds of that. And you'll get about 10 minutes in each breakout room. So once you're in there, just jump into your questions.
Yes, and I'm going to assign everybody randomly. And so if 2 speakers end up in one room, I will move you to a different room. As soon as I press this button, everyone's going to get whisked away. Don't be scared. If you have any problems, just return to the main room and we can help you. Okay, ready? Here we go.